These are real stories shared by real people in personal letters. Stories about relationships, loss, and difficult choices. A woman who had never worked married a successful entrepreneur. He was smart, well-educated, ran a solid business, and provided a comfortable life for the family. As often happens in marriages where one partner provides everything, she had plenty of free time and no real responsibilities. At some point, she started looking for excitement elsewhere. I want you to listen carefully, because this kind of behavior follows a very predictable pattern. Understanding it helps you recognize where things can eventually lead. It started simply. She began spending more time with her friends, going out to cafes, bars, restaurants. Days filled with conversations about life, appearances of success, and comparisons. Whose husband earns more, who lives better. From the outside, it looked like a carefree lifestyle. In reality, it showed a growing lack of respect for herself, for her family, and for her husband. Then things escalated. The husband started noticing that she would come home smelling of alcohol. Not drunk, but clearly drinking. More than once. They talked about it. There was a child at home. He couldn't keep taking the child to work with him. The child was going to daycare, even though the mother didn't work and stayed busy with her own affairs. Honestly, that alone raised serious questions. If a parent is home all day, why send the child away? At some point, basic parental instinct and responsibility should exist. But the situation kept getting worse. What started as casual drinking turned into late nights. Not overnight disappearances, but coming home very late. And that's when things truly began to spiral out of control. After that, the man told her directly, things couldn't continue this way. If nothing changed, they would have to rethink their relationship. The child wasn't to blame for any of this, and he wanted clear answers. Instead of answers, what followed was a series of arguments. As it often happens in situations like this, she shifted the blame onto him. She accused him of drinking. She claimed he didn't bring enough money home, that she needed more. Every attempt at a calm conversation turned into another fight. At some point, she gave him an ultimatum. If you don't like it, you can leave. Make no mistake, this was a power move. An ultimatum designed to force submission. He understood exactly what that meant. If he left, the legal process would begin. The apartment, the child, the finances, everything would end up decided by the courts. And in the end, he would be the one pushed out of his own life. The situation kept getting worse. There were times when she didn't come home until the next day. She claimed she stayed with friends, and maybe that was true. But by then, the trust was already gone. Once she realized the ultimatum had worked, her behavior changed completely. She understood she had control, access to his money, access to his resources, and a secure place to live. From that moment on, she did whatever she wanted. The man, on the other hand, was trapped. Legally, financially, emotionally. Removing her from the apartment was nearly impossible. Court practice made that very clear. There were discussions about property, including a car that might qualify as separate assets. But with someone living this lifestyle, reaching a fair agreement was unrealistic. Dark options were considered, gathering proof, recordings, evidence. But there was no certainty, and crossing that line would have meant becoming someone else entirely. In the end, none of those options worked. There was only one possible strategy left. Stay calm, act as if everything was fine, and quietly prepare. The strategy was simple. While she felt relaxed and confident that nothing was wrong, he created a sense of safety and quietly prepared his own plan. Then something happened that no one expected. One day, as the man was walking downstairs, he checked the mailbox. Inside was a letter addressed to his wife. It was from local law enforcement. The letter stated that on a specific date, she had been detained for public intoxication and taken to a sobering facility. Everything was officially documented. She had no money on her at the time to pay the fine. Since she didn't have a job, the notice was sent directly to her home address instead. At first, the man was shocked. It was disturbing to realize how far things had gone. Following legal advice, he went to the authorities listed on the letter. That's when he learned the truth. This wasn't the first incident. There had been 2 separate detentions. And that changed everything. Under local law, repeated incidents like this trigger a review of parental fitness. The case was quickly forwarded to social services. A formal hearing was held. Both parents were present. The focus wasn't infidelity, there wasn't enough proof for that. But the pattern of alcohol abuse, repeated absences, and neglect was undeniable. As a result, her parental rights were temporarily suspended. This wasn't permanent. She was given a period of time to prove rehabilitation, get a job, maintain a clean record, and demonstrate stability. During this time, the family was officially classified as high risk and placed under supervision. This was the turning point. With this decision in place, the man's lawyer finally had room to act. Living with someone who repeatedly abused alcohol and disappeared for days made a healthy family environment impossible. That became the legal foundation for the next step. A battle over the apartment began. The legal details were complex and specific to local law. Some actions pushed ethical boundaries, not everything was clean or simple. But the result was clear. With custody in question and documented instability on her side, the balance of power shifted. For the first time, he wasn't reacting anymore. He was in control. A negative character reference was submitted to the review committee. In reality, there was no need to fabricate anything. Her own behavior had already created a clear record. But taking control of the situation required proactive steps. What happened next unfolded quickly. Before the commission even reached a final decision, the apartment was legally transferred. The property was sold through a formal sales agreement, changing ownership on paper. After that, the man officially registered his residence as his parents' home. On the same day, a second transaction took place. The property was transferred to his parents. Later, the apartment was gifted back to him through a legal donation agreement, a type of transfer that is rarely overturned. As a result, she lost all legal claims to the property. Custody issues followed soon after. The entire process was exhausting. Emotionally, financially, mentally, took a serious toll. But eventually he recovered. Today he's doing well. He rebuilt his life. The woman, the biological mother of his child, now lives with her own parents and works a regular job at a local company. Not long ago, she used to sit in cafes with friends, talking about how successful her life was. Now, reality looks very different. This isn't about humiliation or revenge. It's about consequences. Status fades quickly when responsibility disappears. Trust is hard to rebuild once it's broken. This story had an ending, and for him it was a positive one. So think carefully before you enter a marriage. Think about how you respond to ultimatums, about boundaries, about self-respect. Stay grounded. See situations clearly. Understand your position legally, emotionally, socially. That's how conflicts are resolved before they destroy everything. That's how unnecessary losses are avoided. And that's how what you've built is protected. If this story gave you something to think about, share your thoughts in the comments. Like the video, and I'll keep sharing real stories like this.